Hello and welcome to Messing About with Models with me, John. Today I'll be giving you an update on the latest on my new layout, Loch Doune. Stay tuned and I'll also be talking about some of the future plans for the layout. Since the last update on the layout, I've been moving ahead with some of the scenic items. First of all, the back scene. I'd originally thought about using the Pico Mountain Lake back scene. It seemed appropriate for a Scottish loch, but I wasn't terribly happy with the way it looked. And my philosophy on this layout has been to try and improve every item over and above what was on my previous layout, a pottery. And on that I'd used a Pico back scene. So I thought maybe this time I'd go for one of the photo back scenes. I was struggling to find one that I thought was suitable until I saw an RM Web layout set in the Scottish Highlands, which was using the ID back scenes forest and hills back scene image. I'd not looked at it before because I didn't think that was the sort of scene I was looking for. But as you can see, I think this is a really good representation of a Scottish loch with hills on either side covered with trees, and it just looks the part. So I've used that. I've gone for the option with the self-adhesive plastic back scene because I obviously wanted to curve it slightly around the corners. And although it said it wasn't advised to fit directly to MDF, I applied some 3M photo mount spray to the back scene board before fitting the back scene, and it seems to have applied really well. As you can see, the colours have been sort of desaturated and faded a bit so that they're not overpowering the foreground elements of the model, which would have been the case with the Pico back scenes. The colours are quite bright and vibrant. The next item that I worked on was building a platform. Now, because of the track plan and because of the size of the board and the sorts of things I wanted to do with the station, it wasn't possible to use any of the fixed sizes of platform element from either Hornby or Pico or whoever. So I thought about using artist's foam board. I'd seen Chris Nevard in Model Rail use exactly the same thing, and I thought I'd give it a try. The advantages are that it's relatively easy to cut to an exact shape, and I wanted a slightly curving front platform as well as space for a bay platform for a goods wagon or two. Because this is 5mm, I used 3 layers and built that up, and then I've used a wrap from scalemodelScenery.co.uk for the front to give it a stone wall fronting texture, and I used some Metcalfe platform tops for the top of the platform. I'm altogether happy with that because of the tarmac appearance, but it was what I had to hand and it doesn't look too bad. I think that maybe a gravel effect might have been more suitable, but I wasn't quite sure how to get that because the various flat textures that I'd seen of gravel platform tops didn't quite ping out to me. The main scenic item that I have been doing this week is I've upgraded the Hornby platform shelter. This is familiar to people as it's often included in train sets and the like, and is the entry-level platform building from Hornby. I picked this one up for about £6 off of eBay. They're about £15 new. I wouldn't necessarily pay that much for what's just a piece of plastic. But as you can see, what I've done is I've painted it in 2 tones. I've painted a cream upper section, and I've used Humbrol number 73 wine to represent the faded LMS browny red colour that many Scottish buildings were painted in before the war and were still visible in that colour, and sometimes repainted in that colour after the war. As you can see, with the addition of some scale scenes posters, some timetables, a couple of signs, fitting some glazing to the windows as well, and also the bench painted in Humbrol natural wood colour, has really lifted this basic model into something that really looks the part, and I'm well pleased with it. I think the only thing that I would do now is possibly look at doing some weathering to the building, because it does look too clean and fresh. So I just need to tone down some of those colours with a little bit of perhaps dry brushing or something, and we'll maybe have a look at that in a future video. Next stages on the layout are to ballast the track, and I'll be doing a video on that, so showing you how to do ballasting. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when that one's coming up. And I'll also be doing at the entrance to the layout on the right hand side here, lifting up the scenery to sort of try and make a sort of shallow cutting effect here, and merge in the foreground into the background slightly. And I'll be doing a video showing you how to create some hills and embankments fairly easily and cheaply. So again, make sure you subscribe and to be alerted when that video goes up, which will be in the next few weeks. At the other end of the layout, my plan here is for an engine shed, but rather than modelling an entire engine shed, which would take up a lot of space and perhaps even dominate the layout at that end, I'm only going to be showing the engine shed front in a sort of low, semi-low relief, so that it will give the appearance that the track goes further off than it does, but we'll see the front of it. At the moment, I'm looking for a suitable engine shed that will work and that isn't expensive, because I'm only really going to be using the front sort of quarter, 20% of it. So I don't really want to be spending a lot of money on an engine shed and throwing most of it away. As you can also see, I've got an addition to the rolling stock roster as well. I picked up this Hornby J83 for just over £20 on eBay, and I thought that was an absolute bargain for what's actually a pretty reasonable model. It does need a bit of upgrading. The front cab windows are some kind of upside down U shape, so that needs to be filled in, possibly with a little bit of glazing. In fact, cab really needs to be formed inside, because if you look carefully you can just see a hole in the bottom of the floor, and you can see the end of the motor in there where the back edge should be, and so I'll probably look at doing something there, and possibly also adding a little bit of coal and so on, and maybe weathering it a little bit, although the finish on it is absolutely superb. This is one of the later China built models, and in fact it's got a DCC decoder socket. The model had previously been fitted with a decoder which the previous owner had taken out. So it's actually a very reasonable loco, and one of the few Scottish locos that I've got. I've not decided yet whether this will be an ex-Caledonian Railway branch or an ex-North British Railway branch, and I might even keep that a little bit vague anyway, just to allow me to run various different locos that I might catch my fancy. I'm particularly looking out for the Rails of Sheffield Cali 812 class 060 tender engine that will be out hopefully later this year. Whilst the Cali blue ones do look really gorgeous, I'm thinking of going for one of the early BR black ones. There's an image of a Cali 060 on the Killin branch, which this is loosely based on, hauling a one-coach passenger train. So it's not unusual to have seen such locos in this area. Another project for the next few weeks is to build a small fiddle yard. I'm going to use some 2mm MDF just to make a short stick type fiddle yard. I've not decided yet whether it'll just be a single track or whether there'll be a Y point to give two sidings, but I also have a Insulfrog 3-way point handy, which because it's just lying around, it's what I've got to hand, I might use that. So there's just space for extra rolling stock to be held off scene. So that's all that's been happening at Loch Doune in the last couple of weeks. So I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be alerted when the next video goes up. And keep an eye out for my tips on ballasting and making hills and embankments. See you soon.